Joining me now, Leland Vittert, host of On Balance right here on NewsNation, to talk about what's next and how negotiations will be affected moving forward. Leland, thanks for joining us on this Sunday.
Alex, good to be with you.
All right, let's talk about these hostages who were killed just 48 to 72 hours before the Israeli troops got to their bodies. What does that tell you about Hamas killing them as the Israeli Defense Forces closed in on their location? Which begs the question, did Hamas ever have any intention of releasing these hostages alive?
It's a great question. You really never know what terrorist intentions are other than to kill and to sow the division and persecute this war against Israel that they have done now for a little more than 300 days. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Their benefactors in Iran continue to allow them to operate. So the one thing that this does, I think, is it really hardens the resolve of a lot of Israelis who say that there is no reason to make a deal with terrorists. Everybody wants a ceasefire. Everybody wants the hostages to come home. But I think it puts into perspective for a lot of people what we are dealing with in terms of a terrorist organization.
You say it's hard to plan and predict what a terrorist organization might do, but maybe you can shed some insight in what the leader of Israel might do. We're talking about Netanyahu, whether or not he might be willing to negotiate with Hamas moving forward now that we know that these 6 hostages were killed point blank.
The more hostages that Hamas kills, the less leverage they have, the more desperate they get. At the same time, the brutality of these killings and the fact that it was really not a killing but an execution ahead of a possible rescue probably brings more into perspective for Israelis exactly the need to prosecute the war to the end, and that is the end of Hamas. At the same time, you have the United States that had been putting a lot of pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu, continues to put a lot of pressure. This changes the dynamic for them because there's a lot of American Jews who, even after the October 6th attacks, would have said, hey, you know, there's a way to have a deal with the Palestinians. The more brutal Hamas acts, the more disgusted the American diaspora of Jews become at the Palestinian cause at all, and the less likely they are to allow the Biden administration or to support the Harris presidency candidacy, if you will, if they keep pressuring Benjamin Netanyahu. If anything, I think this strengthens his hand.
Yeah, aside from that geopolitical pressure, which includes the Biden administration, what's stopping Netanyahu from fully annihilating Hamas, and with it, of course, the tragedy, which would be the killing of civilians that would inevitably come with it?
Civilians always die in war. And there's a lot of reason to believe that had Israel been allowed to prosecute the war from the beginning the way they wanted to, and the way any war by a civilized army would be prosecuted rather than subject to the very, very severe restrictions that the IDF is, both because of public opinion and because of the Israelis' own feelings, this would have been over in a couple of months. The fact that the Biden administration put so much pressure on the Israelis literally from day one, I think prolong this, and I think we're seeing the fallacy of the idea that you can kind of have a half war. Either you have a war that is fought by all reasonable and necessary means and humane and lawful means, sometimes means civilians die. The fallacy of being able to sort of have this low-intensity conflict between the Israelis and Hamas has turned it into almost a whack-a-mole in Gaza. It's lasted now far longer than it needed to, probably resulted in far more civilian deaths just because of the time frame that has existed. And Hamas still controls Gaza. And the million people or so left in Gaza are living in worse conditions thanks to Hamas.
So, Leland, what do you see as the next step that might be unfolding here?
There's going to be a lot more anger in Israel at Hamas, and probably Benjamin Netanyahu is going to be a little bit freer in terms of maneuvering and in terms of going after Hamas leadership inside Gaza. Again, I think the real issue here, President Biden saying Hamas is going to pay a price. Well, the United States can make Hamas pay a price. The United States, President Biden tomorrow could make the leaders of Iran that are the benefactors of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis that have American blood on their hands, he can make them pay a price tomorrow. He's been saying that for 10 months, and there's a danger here for the United States that it is becoming almost irrelevant.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.